into it, shall we? It's politics. Yeah, I know it's a Saturday, but it is politics, and it does affect you. It affects all of us, because at the moment we are being led by a zombie government. They're all running around with like headless chickens, wondering how they're going to sort out the Mandelson mess, as we're going to have to start calling it. Talking of Mandelson, police have actually concluded their search of Mandelson's 2 homes, one in Wiltshire and one in London, as part of that investigation. The disgraced peer is under investigation after it emerged he had allegedly leaked secret government documents and market-sensitive information to paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein. The Metropolitan Police say the case is complex and more evidence must be examined. He has not been arrested and inquiries do continue. The news coincides with mounting pressure on the Prime Minister, checks watch currently, to resign over the scandal, with Labour and Sir Keir Starmer now polling at historic lows, which they were doing before this mess. I mean, Keir Starmer was the least popular Prime Minister we've had ever. That was before this. Anyway, so let's have a little chat about this one. Joining me now is political commentator Benedict Spence and former Labour councillor Simon Nash. Thank you both. Thank you for coming in. It's good to have some company on a Saturday afternoon. I'm normally kept on my own here, locked in the studio. Simon, let's come to you first. Now, can you defend this Labour government in any way, shape or form at the moment?
I think I can. Small correction, I'm not an ex-Labour councillor. I'm a political commentator, but supporting
I'm just going to go and have the producer shot. That's fine. Sorry
I'm
about
the
that.
ex-Labour councillor. Nobody saw that coming.
No, you've got Labour in your title somewhere along the line, so can you defend them, though?
I think so. I think Keir Starmer has recently been listening. I think he's very unpopular in the beginning for these crazy ideas around digital IDs and other things, and I think in the last month or so he has been creating a vision for Britain, and I think it would be absolutely disastrous for the country to have another leadership election, another failing government. And it was in the FT today saying interest rates would rise and that would make people poorer if he was disposed of democratically. And that would be a great shame. I mean, who would be next? Angela Rayner, you know. I look forward to the next Garage remix on Instagram. Rayner's How Many Homes going into number 10.
Oh, yeah, that would be number 3, wouldn't it?
Number 3, yeah.
And that one's, we're paying for that one as well, aren't we?
Yeah, that would be one small upside, but I think it's, you know, he chose Peter Mandelson based on his connections at the time. I think it was reasonable to believe that he did not know the debauchery and the corruption involved with Peter Mandelson when he was appointed. And in fact, even Nigel Farage sort of endorsed Peter Mandelson. He said, well, I can help connect you to Donald Trump and to
be fair to Nigel Farage, he said Mandelson was a good networker.
Yeah.
I mean, Keir Starmer has said that he not only didn't read any newspapers, didn't see the, I think it was Channel 4 documentary on Mandelson's links with Epstein, and completely ignored the dossier was handed by his own civil servants on the links.
Well,
didn't notice any of that lot going on.
All of this came out because of the release of the Epstein files. Now, are we saying that MI5 or MI6 had pre-access to the Epstein files before even the civil servants in America? I suspect not. And even Jeffrey Epstein's conviction was sealed when he did the plea bargain. So it was reasonable to believe that Mandelson didn't know. Well, we know now he knew, but back then when he was appointed, I think it was reasonable to believe he didn't know how awful this man was, how manipulative and nasty he was to all these young women and children.
He was convicted of sex trafficking a minor.
He was, yeah.
Peter Mandelson stayed in his house after that conviction.
Did he know? Because that conviction was sealed and not made public, even withheld from a Florida court. So Peter Mandelson could have not known that.
OK. Benedict, what do you make of this one? You're chuckling away in the corner there, as Benedict is often wont to do, by the way.
Yeah, like Statler and Waldorf. This is just one of me, but I'm big enough for both. Are we really going to suggest for a second that the security services didn't have access to this information? Absolutely.
Used to having a chat about this.
Whether or not it was relayed to the Prime Minister is a different question, but they absolutely will have had access to this information. If the entire apparatus of the US security services had access to this information, which they did, then the UK will have done as well. This should have been passed along to the Prime Minister. But as you say, actually, all those things that you listed, that was going after Peter Mandelson, including the Financial Times, which made quite a big deal. The same paper that's saying today, oh, maybe don't spook the horses. No friends of Peter Mandelson exactly. There's also this thing called Google that you can just sort of use with your thumbs, and the power of your own digits enables you, and then your eyes, to find this stuff out. And it is that thing, isn't it, where that many people knew. And this is the other thing, because even if hypothetically nobody at all had access to any of this information, and our security services and our civil service and the Cabinet Office and the Prime Minister and the Labour Party are all as useless at accruing information as that would suggest that they are, the Trump administration, for some time, had been talking about, we're going to release the Epstein files, we're going to do it, it's going to come out, it's all going to be part of... And it was all throughout the campaign, even before the campaign officially started, that was what they were talking about. Who on earth, seeing that coming down the tracks, thought, so this guy, Mandelson, who, you know, we don't know, let's say we don't know the links that he has to Epstein, just that he has them. Is this, in fact, the best person to put front and centre in the, you know, in the way of a juggernaut in the form of the Trump administration that is going to release these files? I mean, that was a really stupid decision to have made. And if that's the thing, if nothing else, let's say the Prime Minister had no idea, didn't even know who Jeffrey Epstein is. No. That's the problem, is that he still had this sort of outside information, had no risk management whatsoever, and just thought, nothing bad could possibly come.
I disagree, because... Epstein was awful and a criminal and a terrible person. The other connections that were in that clique of the elite, so Peter Mandelson, well, at the time it was thought he just knew Jeffrey Epstein. They weren't particularly close, etc. He didn't know he was a criminal. Also in that clique were Bill Clinton, Bill Gates. All these connections would have been really good for investment in the UK, for British business. It doesn't excuse any crimes, but the fact that Mandelson was in that kind of world of elites, of those clubs and all these things would have been good for a US ambassador. And bearing in mind as well, that Britain, we do business with dictators, people who, you know, African dictators, the oil in Myanmar, Burma, the atrocities going on there, apartheid Israel, what's going on in Gaza. We're still doing business with people in Israel. You have ambassadors who've done maybe awful things, but they're still resident in London and they're done business with.
We do business with everybody around the world because that's how things work. Having said that, though, again, do we remember there was a programme on a channel, I think it was the... Is it the BBC? It's a little-known channel. Maybe
no one watches that.
But there was an interview with a very minor royal figure, which may or may not have destroyed the reputation of that figure and had a long-lasting impact on the reputation of the royal family. When was that? Was that before or after Mandelson was made? Because you might think, because again, those links are actually, you know, the accusations against that former royal aren't in fact that large in the grand scheme of what is alleged in the Epstein files. Might you not look at that and go, ooh, this causes quite a lot of damage, even when you can't pin anything on anybody. It's enough to destroy somebody's life and an institution. Again, really poor judgment.
Well, why did the opposition, why did the Conservative Party not make a big fuss about Peter Mandelson being elected, raise awkward questions in Parliament, if they knew any of this?
Should have done. That doesn't mean that Mandelson gets off out of this, you know, squeaky clean, and it certainly doesn't mean that the Prime Minister gets out of it either. Just because the opposition, who are now not in power, or Nigel Farage, who has never been in power, didn't raise these, does not mean that after the fact they can look at those people, the Labour Party can look at those people and go, well, those people who have no power, they also made this mistake. Fine, we can chastise them as well. The point is, he's the Prime Minister, and he came into government on the back of saying, I'm going to be the grown-up in the room, I'm forensic, I know everything. This is the best prepared government in history. We've had so long to examine everything. Oh, whoops, I've set fire to my credibility. Oh, I've done it again. Oh, I've done it again. That's the problem here. It just continues on and on with this man, and it's not even like you can say, oh, he's a decent chap and he's been let down by those around him, because he keeps on appointing these people. That's the thing. They're all his appointments at the end of the day.
He hasn't appointed many former associates of Epstein and major criminals who are involved in corruption and getting Epstein.
He appointed one.
He appointed one.
And he appointed all of that man's mates, who it then turns out that man had a central part of selecting candidates at the last general election. Anyway, that kind of sounds like quite a lot of power to give to somebody who you might go, ooh, his reputation, his nickname's the Prince of Darkness. Maybe don't go for this guy. And instead, Keir Starmer went, ooh, Prince of Darkness, power of Satan and hell. That sounds like a great thing to mark.
Well, maybe
Let's put him in charge.
Maybe you do need someone slightly Machiavellian to be an ambassador. I mean, look, this McSweeney chap recommended Peter Mandelson to the team. I mean, Tony Blair got away with a lot by having a great PR chap, and that was useful to the Labour administration. So, I mean, this McSweeney chap who recommended Mandelson, he's the point at which he sort of recommended the chap. And Peter Mandelson is the person who's alleged to have done all these absolutely awful things. He's on the hook. I think the fact that Keir Starmer approved his appointment should not be his downfall. I think it'd be absurd for him to leave. I mean, how many people have appointed bad members of staff or a friend's let them down or someone's turned out to be absolutely awful, like, they're not responsible. That's someone that's let them down.
Again, if it was a solitary, isolated case and, this was a minor mishap,
well, who else
then maybe. But
else?
look at all the other members of the front bench of the cabinet who've had to resign because it turned out they were not great choices, be it the Transport Secretary or, what was it, the corruption czar, who it's just been sentenced to however many years in prison overseas. If it was an isolated incident, maybe you'd say it's unfair. But even then, it's a guy who's best mates with a convicted paedophile. Come on, that's kind of a big blind spot.
It is a big blind spot. The previous administration had all kinds of corruption, PPE contracts going to dog walkers and...
but not to paedophile.
Forgive me, Simon, that is...
They're both awful. Like, massive government corruption,
there is a degree of severity.
We are talking...
awful.
We are talking about a convicted paedophile here, and some of the girls, and let's not forget the victims, some of the girls who are victims of Epstein are just 10 years old. Let's not forget them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is not like, just a... sort of like, a minor misdemeanour. This is some of the stuff in the Epstein
Well, that's not Mandelson, that's the person
I know, but Mandelson was staying...
And that's not Keir Starmer, that's Keir Starmer's
ambassador. But Mandelson was staying in this person's apartment even after he'd been convicted, and everybody
we
knew
know that now. We know that now.
We knew that back in the time.
As I go back to what I said at the start, even if it is believable that the Prime Minister had no idea and nobody who worked for the Prime Minister had any idea and nobody in the security services had any idea and none of us had any idea, even if that's the case, that it went that deep. The very fact that he was friends with somebody who was a convicted paedophile should be enough to say, OK, at the very least, maybe not ambassador to the US. Maybe something slightly less important. Maybe not something that's front and centre that might cause a major scandal,
Bill Gates.
Embarrassment later.
We
didn't make him ambassador. You can list lots of people that we haven't actually appointed to anything in the Epstein files, but this one, the Prime Minister did, and that's what we're talking about.
How many people have known serial killers as acquaintances, all these kinds of things? Essentially, Epstein was connected to everyone in that elite world, and I don't think the majority of them knew how bad he was.
That's true.
It's awful,
people do know convicted criminals, but how many of them get made ambassadors to the United States? I mean, maybe we don't want to answer that question. It's possible that there are some rather dodgy things. Maybe that'll be revealed in the Epstein files as well, about former ambassadors. I have no idea. I mean, it's possible, but I think it's unlikely.
I met the former ambassador for the US to Russia once. I mean, which kind of people would he deal with and become friendly with?
Talking of Russia, there was that issue with Mandelson hanging around on yachts with fairly dodgy Russians.
That's true, yeah.
He also represented a company that had direct dealings with the Chinese government.
Yeah.
This is
direct dealings with the Chinese government. That's a kind of an ambassadorial thing, isn't it?
Kind of prime ministerial thing at the moment. Simon, though, we are where we are now. The situation's happened. Obviously, Mandelson denies any wrongdoing and that there is a criminal case going ahead. Do you think, though, the people watching and listening to this programme now have any faith or trust in their Prime Minister?
I think that they do. He has apologised unreservedly for choosing the awful Peter Mandelson in that role. He has apologised for that, and I think that the alternatives are not good. I think the alternative parties are not good, and I think that there's a bit of a vision going on. He's done a lot of good. The NHS is improving. Great British Railways.
Oh, you could say the NHS is improving because of Wes Streeting, who is a potential rival as Prime Minister.
Who was appointed by... Wes Streeting was appointed by Keir Starmer. So.
Yeah, and Wes Streeting was mentored by, Peter Mandelson.
Well, if he's not the Health Minister and he's Prime Minister, then maybe the NHS won't be as good because he'll be focused on that instead. And I think, a cabinet is a team, and, I mean... The Prime Minister's not going to have a really deep personal relationship with every single person in every sort of position, and I think it's what he did was wrong but forgivable, and I think he did what he did with the best knowledge at the time.
So you think he could carry on as Prime Minister? This will go away?
I think so, and I think if he's kicked out by treacherous backbench MPs who failed to call out Peter Mandelson around the time, and if there's a no-confidence vote supported by the opposition, by the Conservatives and Reform, despite them not calling out Peter Mandelson at the time, that would, it would be a disgrace, and it would be bad for the country. Your mortgages and everything will go up.
That's a fair point, actually, about the number of people who would be the stalking horses to replace Keir Starmer, how many of them actually said anything about Mandelson at the time. So if there is a leadership contest for some reason, that can be justifiably aimed at just about all of them. But again, that doesn't, I think, reinforce a lot of faith in the party in general, in the state. If we're having to go through the fine-tooth comb and find, right, which is the one that did say by the way, guys, this might not be a good idea. You've got, well, Lord Glassman. Well, he can't become Prime Minister, can he? We've got Gordon Brown. He was Prime Minister.
And has written a very strong piece in The Guardian today. Angela Rayner, the front page of The Times today, saying, I did warn.
Well, Angela Rayner, who
was it?
Well, she was kicked out by Keir Starmer, so she's going to have a bit of a knife in her back pocket, metaphorically.
You don't think Angela Rayner would do a good job? At the moment, she is Bookie's favourite.
I don't know. I mean, she...
I mean, despite... I mean, the fact that we are talking about someone who is being investigated by HMRC as a potential Prime Minister is the mad place we are with politics at the moment. But you don't think, as a Labour person, she'd be good?
She was very vocal about the new rules on second homes in trust for children being taxed, and was very vocal about that being a positive thing. And then it seems, or it's alleged, that she avoided that, and it was a rule that she introduced. That seems massively hypocritical to, oh, there's a new rule that's come in, oh, I've forgotten about it. Oh, there's a new rule that's come in that I actively promoted and said was a just thing, and then I've not followed it. That does seem very poor judgment.
Who would you have if Starmer had to go, if he did fall on his sword?
I actually can't answer that. I mean, Wes Streeting's the only person that's regularly in the press and seems to be really active and competent. I mean, imagine if Chuck Ramuna came back. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? I mean, I think there'll be some... I mean, he's not part of the Labour Party anymore. I think there are lots of people that might put their heads up soon if this sort of coup goes ahead, which I hope it doesn't. But it would be in May, wouldn't it, for the election?
Okay, the final word, Benedict?
This is one of the interesting things, actually, to mention. Chuck Ramuna, another one would obviously be David Miliband, and that ties into Wes Streeting. The Labour Party actually doesn't reward outwardly ambitious people like the Conservative Party does. It doesn't like that. It likes to cut the tall poppies down. The one that stands out for me, nobody's talking about, is John Healey. Partly because nobody's talking about him, but he's done a fairly decent, consistent job as Defence Secretary. Inoffensive, doesn't have any major sort of scandals or anything or affiliations to his name. Only downside, his constituency is one of those that I think both Reform and the Greens are both targeting pretty hard. But obviously, if you're just trying to steady the ship and you're not even thinking about the next general election, why not, frankly? I mean, people are talking about Al Carnes, and nobody knows who Al Carnes is either. And he was only just elected. You know, he's a junior minister in the MOD. So why not John Healey in that?
Do you think David Miliband might come back? He was a popular alternative to Gordon Brown some years ago. He might
like WWE when they bring back a wrestler from 10 years ago. That would be, everybody would be like, wow, didn't see that coming.
Let's end it on the WWE note, shall we?
David Miliband in the WWE.
Not David Miliband in Lycra. I don't want to go there. Thank you very much. Political commentator Benedict Spence and two political commentators, lucky me, Simon Nash. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today.